A bit of a while ago, there was a game called Minecraft Story Mode, which was a Minecraft spin off, I guess, by Telltale Games. Minecraft Story Mode was basically a lot of people's childhood, or if you weren't a child at the time, you probably just liked the game for its pretty cool story. But one thing, and I mean one thing, has always stuck with me. No matter how many times I play, I always think about how strange the wither sickness is. So today I'm going to be talking about, you know, how I feel about how stupid this thing feels sometimes. The protagonist, well, main character, you know what a protagonist is probably, hopefully. If you don't, dude, what grade are you in? The protagonist of Minecraft Story Mode is Jesse. I don't know Jesse's last name, if even has a last name, but Jesse is, I presume, like a 19-year-old in Minecraft Story Mode Season 1 and would likely be in his 20s or 30s by the time Minecraft Story Mode Season 2 is happening. Although I'm not exactly sure how old he is. He could have already been in his 20s in Season 1 and actually been, in his 30s in Season 2. But I'm not sure because he sounds like a teen to me. He's got that, you know, puberty thing going on. Like his voice cracks a ridiculous amount. So, yeah. His age isn't the important thing. Jesse, throughout the entire game, never contracts wither sickness, not even once. And, you know, that's kind of a good thing because it would be pretty annoying if the main character of the entire story was sick and unplayable throughout most of the game. And, we already had that kind of plot point happen in The Walking Dead. So, Telltale probably couldn't do that again. Plus, it'd just be extremely boring since he would be completely weak um, I don't know the word, but he'd have amnesia or just be really weak the entire game, which would be really boring. So, yeah. But something strange is other characters do get wither sickness. For example, in season 1, episode 1, um you can either save Gabriel or Petra. I think most people choose to save Petra. Uh you might choose Gabriel on your first run, I guess, thinking he's better because he's a warrior. I don't want to give too many spoilers, but I'm gonna have to review this. So if you haven't played the game yet, then you should probably stay away because I have in fact played this game before. I played it on a tablet before the game went off sale, and I also have downloaded it on a computer so I can play it. I haven't finished all the extra episodes of season 1 yet, but I have finished the main story and I haven't got past the portal arcs. So, just a spoiler warning, if you haven't played or watched the game already, you should probably get off this video because I'm going to spoil some of the biggest, you know, plot twists and stuff in this video. So, just be aware. Three, two, one. Spoilers are gonna start soon. Depending on who you save, you can either give Petra or Gabriel wither sickness, but there's two types. There's the amnesia type, which the person you don't save gets after you blow up the wither with the Formidabomb, and then there's the actual wither sickness, which makes you really weak, like it does with who you try to save in the episode. In that episode, whoever you save would have had very, very low wither exposure, having only been in the tractor beam for only a few seconds. So, you'd think, okay, Given with how many times Jesse gets sucked into that freaking tractor beam over several moments in the game for several seconds, he'd be sick too, right? Wrong. Not once in the game does he contract wither sickness, despite other characters being in the tractor beam for only several seconds, compared to him having been in it for totals of probably several minutes, especially considering in the final wither fight, where he gets inside the wither, he gets sucked into a tractor beam to hit the command block. This should theoretically give him at least the weakness type of wither sickness, shouldn't it? It doesn't. Not once does this guy get wither sickness. He doesn't even show signs of getting wither sickness. He doesn't cough at all like Petra. He doesn't get weaker. His skin doesn't turn paler like it does with whoever you don't save or whoever you do save. He doesn't get patches on his body like Petra does. And you could argue, oh, well, it's because if it's only physical contact with the wither that causes it, which it isn't, because at the point in the game where you have to save someone, theoretically, neither Petra nor Gabriel would have been hit with a tendril even once yet. So this means that theoretically, Jesse should be sick as heck. I want to say the actual word, but I gotta stay family friendly so I can try to make some money later. Although I'm not gonna make any right now because I'm such a small YouTuber. Now, for certain characters, it makes sense for them to have wither sickness. Like, for example, if you don't save the other person, them having wither amnesia makes sense since they've been inside the wither attached to its literal organs for like several days. But for the other character, the character you do save, it doesn't really make sense for them to have Wither, considering the fact that Jesse, over a lot of time, gets sucked into tractor beams several times without getting hit. I mean, without getting sick, even once. This makes no sense, considering how often he gets whacked and thrown away by the tentacles, especially in that one part where he gets smacked by a tentacle. It wraps around him and he breaks free with his sword. At that point in the game, if it was just physical contact, he should have been sick. He should have been catching that COVID. But nah, he didn't even get signs. Most characters would probably be dead. Now, for Olivia and the other characters, it makes sense. They weren't even ever in the beams. However, with Jesse being in the beams longer than most other characters and still not getting sick, it makes the wither sickness stop feeling like a genuine threat and feel more like a really lazy plot device to make you feel like you have to play the game as fast as possible to kill the wither as fast as possible to save your friends from dying of wither sickness. However, if you actually look at the wither sickness, it's more like having a really bad fever than anything. It just slows you down and makes you feel bad. So, it doesn't feel like the threat that it is. Wither sickness actually is a big threat. The problem is it just doesn't play out like one. Jesse should be sick, at least a little bit sick. But other characters around Jesse do get sick when they get sucked into the tractor beams. Like, for example, I'm just gonna say Petra as the person you save from now on because that's the person I save, and the person that a lot of people save over Gabriel. So, it doesn't make sense for Petra to get sick. It makes sense for Gabriel to be sick, though, considering he'd been sucked up by the tractor beam and been inside the Wither. So, it makes sense for Gabriel to have amnesia sickness. However, if it takes only a few seconds of contact with the tractor beam, and Jesse has been in contact with it for more than just a few seconds, shouldn't he have wither amnesia and not just wither sickness? Unless he got wither amnesia and it made him forget he was sick. And even then, that doesn't make sense because he wasn't weakened at all. And even the person with wither amnesia gets weakness from my memory, so it wouldn't make sense for that to happen. Especially considering the fact that he doesn't get pale at all and nobody mentions Jesse being sick or looking hurt. No, I think they do occasionally ask him if he's okay. Uh, I haven't played the game in a few days, but I still played the game. But it just doesn't make sense to me. Maybe I'm looking too deep, but it feels weird that Jesse gets to walk free just because he's the main character, despite the fact that he should definitely be cooked right now, considering he was dead smack in the tractor beam several times. Like, for example, the Formidabomb. He should be dead, but he's not dead, and it's aggravating. It just feels so lazy to me. It rises the tension for a bit, but the second you stop seeing it as a threat and just see it as a plot device, the second you realize, Jesse should be sick, it stops feeling like so much of a threat. And more than anything, it just confuses me. Though, I guess a theory could be that it's because Jesse has the amulet, but if just having the amulet was enough to stop the, you know, infection from spreading, theoretically, all the characters being in such close proximity with Jesse and the amulet should also receive such protection from the amulet. And we know that Petra is around Jesse a ridiculous amount of time in the actual game, at least from my experience. So Petra shouldn't get sick, you know, because she's so close to the amulet all the time because the entire group is so close to Jesse all the time. So why is she just like, completely sick and then Jesse's completely fine? Even if it was just that, it would make more sense for it to be just a small resistance and not a total freaking cure. And if it was a total cure, then theoretically, like I said, other people should also be cured from being around Jesse so much. Unless, like, they have some dumb excuse where, like, Jesse is immune to the wither sickness or something because some genetic trait from an ancestor some thousands of years ago or something, which wouldn't make sense at all. Like you said, Jesse should be very sick. I mean, the only things we know about the wither sickness for sure is that it can happen when you're sucked into a tractor beam, but for some reason it's like a completely random chance or something because Jesse doesn't get infected by it even once, despite being in close proximity to someone with wither sickness and being sucked into the tractor beam. We know that wither amnesia only seems to happen after you've been inside the wither for several days, as the only people in the game to actually have wither amnesia are the person you don't save, which I'll call Gabriel because it usually is Gabriel, I think. Um, we only know that the people who were killed in episode 1 get with their amnesia, and also the people who serve. I mean, also the person who you leave behind in the first episode. So we know that okay, it's possible that Jesse just didn't get wither amnesia because he wasn't in the wither aside from the one time in the final boss fight where he goes inside to destroy the command block. So yeah, it would make sense why Jesse wouldn't have wither amnesia, I guess, a little. But then again, the person you save gets wither sickness, and I'm just again using Petra for this. Petra gets wither sickness from a few seconds of contact, but she has like several minutes of contact with Jesse, and therefore the amulet. Plus, Jesse holds up the amulet a lot in the game, at least from my memory. So it wouldn't make sense for him to just, be completely fine if he's keeping the amulet out so much. If other characters who also around the amulet also can get sick, it's confusing to me. I mean, it just feels like lazy plot armor because, like I said, Jesse should be sick or dead. Most preferably, just a little sick, if anything. A race against time would be pretty cool where Jesse has to hurry up and find a solution, which causes him to panic and mess up a little, which means he gets even sicker and has to, like, find, like, the enchantment book before he gets too weak to fight the Wither, which would add more stakes than just being like, hey, your friends have Wither, and it's making them really sick, but also you're not sick because you're the main character. That's just, bad writing, at least in my opinion. I'm not a writer. I can't say for sure what should and shouldn't be because, you know, like I said, I'm not a writer. I'm just a guy who likes playing video games. So, if you think I'm wrong, you can think I'm wrong. If you think I'm right, you can think I'm right. If you don't care, I don't care that you don't care because I don't know you in real life, probably. If you do know me in real life, then how are you even on my channel? Because I don't tell anyone about my channel in real life. So, yeah. Just reminding you guys that all of what I'm saying, once again, is just my opinion from my time playing the game and my experience with the game and trying to understand, the plot. If you don't agree with what I'm saying about the plot, that's fine. It's just my opinion. I'm not saying I'm right. I probably am wrong. So, if you disagree with me, you can disagree with me. No one's stopping you. Nobody's saying you can't disagree with me. You can definitely disagree with me if you don't like my opinion. I don't particularly care if you do or don't hate me because I don't know you, once again. So, just reminding you guys if I'm saying something completely false, it's because I'm doing this from what I see in my playthroughs with my logic and reasoning. So, once again, if I have a theory that sounds really stupid or I'm not structuring this to your standards, just remember I'm just a guy with a silly theory. So you can't take what I'm saying too seriously. If you want to take it seriously, that's just what you want to do. Remember, if you want to disagree, that's fine. Uh, Back to the video. Anyway, what does wither sickness actually do? I technically did this segment already, but I'm trying to see if I can go into more detail with the subject. If you think I sound stupid, again, this is just my opinion from my analyzations of the story with my logic. So remember that before you go in the comments with your hate stuff saying that my theories suck, because if they suck, I know. So, wither sickness is essentially one of the big problems in Minecraft Story Mode Season 1, at least for the first 4 episodes, the main story of the game. And Wither sickness is pretty dangerous, I guess. You know, it can turn Petra's. I mean, wait, what? I said that wrong. It can turn people and strong warriors like Petra into defenseless meat shields at best, who are pretty easy to throw away and don't really do much for the group. You know, while Petra still does try to stay resilient, she is significantly weaker than before the wither sickness. Mind you, Petra is the person who could nearly beat up Ivor while he was using speed potions with a golden sword. Although Ivor was also using a gold sword. Most of the game, she fights with a golden sword, which, she likes golden swords, I guess. I don't know if she actually likes golden swords or if it has some sort of sentimental meaning to her, or if it's just to make people feel embarrassed that they lost to the worst material in Minecraft. But she, throughout the entire game, tries to remain tough throughout everything, despite being extremely sick for a large duration of the gameplay. Wither sickness turned her, the person capable of fighting off hordes of monsters with a golden sword almost single handedly, except for the help of a very inexperienced, possibly Tane, with a sword that he crafted a little bit ago. It turned her into a, essentially useless person after a bit, because she went from being able to fend for herself with one of the worst swords in Minecraft, if not actually the worst sword in Minecraft, to, needing to have to stop midway upstairs because she's too weak, because the wither sickness is absolutely demolishing her stamina. Yeah, that's what it does. It turned her into dead weight. Mind you, basically the strongest character in Minecraft Story Mode turned defenseless almost in just a matter of seconds. You'd think that, given the fact that it does that from just a few seconds of exposure to a tractor beam, Jesse getting smacked around by the tentacles and being sucked up multiple times would have wither sickness and would have a hard time with it, but he doesn't get it. He doesn't get to have a hard time with it, which makes no sense to me. And while I can understand they didn't want the protagonist of the game to be completely defenseless, it still doesn't make sense to me that she gets so sick. And it doesn't make sense that the same happens if you get Gabriel wither wither sickness without getting, actual uh, amnesia from it. If you save Gabriel instead of Petra, he mentions that he's had wither sickness before, so it doesn't really make sense for Gabriel to have wither sickness, at least in my opinion. Because if he's experienced regular wither, it he's essentially having, I guess, the dead cells of wither sickness. So if he had and survived regular wither, theoretically he would struggle less than uh, other people, but he struggles just as much as Petra does, which is weird considering she's probably never had wither sickness even once. Or if she did have it, then why doesn't she have a resistance to it? It makes no sense unless she would have got, unless they technically should have got wither amnesia, but because they weren't in the wither storm too long and had already been exposed to it, they didn't get it. So Yeah, but that's a stupid theory, and I don't really want to go that route because it sounds half baked and absolutely insane. So that route also doesn't make sense. So, how on earth is Jesse still fine throughout the entire season? Despite the amulet theory. I mean, unless the amulet only helps you when it's in your inventory, it doesn't make sense. And that doesn't make sense considering characters are capable of using items even when they're outside of their inventory. Like how Jesse stops a machine from closing with his sword. So, items can be in your possession and still be used even without being in your inventory in this world. So, you know, makes no sense. Unless, obviously, I'm overthinking again, which I probably am. It's literally just a kid's game, but I like going for at least a tiny bit of realism. As a kid, you probably wouldn't notice how absolutely absurd it is that Jesse doesn't get sick even once. But when you grow up and really think about it, it's so strange. Characters with seconds of exposure get more sick than a guy whose entire screen time with the Witherstorm consists of him being absolutely wrecked. So, yeah, that's confusing. Anyway, I also want to talk about how completely weird Wither amnesia and sickness are. It's like they immediately disappear when the Wither is killed. There's no, slow wearing off where like the characters can't continue their adventures for a bit because they're too sick. And it's just Petra and Gabriel immediately get better. They completely regain all their memories. They completely regain all their full strength. It's not like they're recovering from a virus. It's more like your typical happily ever after ending where after the big bad is defeated there's no consequences. Everybody's just completely back to normal. And I just don't like that. I prefer if this felt less like Jack and Jill and more like an actual virus. No, unless the wither sickness is just some completely weird thing made up by the wither storm itself to weaken people to make it easier to eat them later if they try to escape. This shouldn't happen. It should be more like slowly wearing off. Anyway, I'm kind of having brain block right now, so I'm gonna have to leave because I keep repeating my points and it's starting to sound stupid. So, yeah. This is the end of this video.